Welcome to Scaffchamp 2025, powered by Layher. We have another guest into the studio. Well, two, in fact. We have Tony Nicolaisen and friend of the show, long-time friend of the show, Mark Parkin. He's been on the View with Vertex more than I have.
Welcome to the show, Isaac.
It's great to be here. It's great to be here. So, both rocking your very crisp white Be Remarkable shirts. And on the sleeve, I see gSA, the Global Scaffolders Alliance. Is it scaffolding or scaffolders?
Scaffolding.
Scaffolding, okay. So give us the sort of overview. What is the gSA?
I suppose it was born out of being here for a number of years, seeing how people operate from around the world and the synergies between each country. And we've got so much of a crossover that we all build the same around the world. So I've spoken to Tony, Simon Boys, and a few others, and we said we need some joined up thinking here. It's got to be a collaborative effort to be transferable skills from around the world. We all build the same. Yeah, there might be a few different reasons that we either use a scaff step or we hook on here or we do that. But inevitably, it's the same process of...
Yeah, I think what we were speaking earlier is like, you may, again, and you know, to add to that, there are different products. There might be different methods, like, but there are also like these Layher, and there's like a ring lock system, there's a wedge system, there's a tube and fitting scaffolding. There's lots of different scaffolding systems, but ultimately, we have people, we have materials, and we have access, right?
Yeah, so you got a bay and the lift height and whatever it is still the same for everybody, whatever we are going. We can see that out here. People are coming from across the country. They're all building the same materials. The design tool are still the same everywhere. And this is what I spoke with Mark about for 1 year ago. I said, if you take a Layher standard and put it in Germany, in Lithuania, or in America, whatever, it's still a Layher standard. It could take what it could take. It's still the same. So why do we have all these kinds of rules, regulations, whatever standards, education, or whatever? Why can we not join and learn from each other, put that together in one piece and say a scaffolder is a scaffolder? So we do things the same way. We have other regulations working at heights and whatever it is. Yeah. But if it comes to the scaffold part, we can still learn from each other.
Yeah, and I think ultimately what a scaffold is providing safe access to a workface, right? So it's like, you know, whether you're in Holland or Sweden or France or Germany, and like there's teams here from Chile and, you know, the United States and all around the world, we're all driven by the same goal of getting people where they need to be safely, but also making sure that we are safe ourselves. I was doing an audit, you know, an inspection just a couple of days ago, and the client asked me for some feedback, and I said, I believe that the people that are most at risk because of these scaffolds are the scaffolders. And, you know, like you say, it's that joined up thinking. We need to educate the scaffolders, the people doing the job. We need to, you know, that maybe there is a better way. We need to educate the clients, the government.
It's the clients. It's the education of the clients. You know, they get so lost in, you know, whether it's this organisation, that organisation, and that happens around the world. But there's no joined up thinking in that. You know, the build pattern is still the same, whether it's a ring, a cup, a tube and fitting to an extent. You know, the only difference in the method of building any one of them things is the node.
Where the whatever component connects to a standard.
But for a scaffolding's perspective, a scaffolder doesn't need to know the load class of everything, and whether that's in bending moment or anything else. He needs to know how to build it. And if he was trained as a scaffolder, he can build anything. It doesn't really matter whether it's hacky or Layher or...
Yeah. I think the conversation always tends to go back to training, right? It always tends to go back to... And I understand that, and it makes sense to me, and that's kind of what, you know, it's what I do. Yeah. So I understand that, because we have to teach people how to do things safer, and, you know, the conversation always comes back to, well, how do we do that? And I think what you just said there, you know, is right. We don't, you know, we sometimes, we do a pretty bad job, unfortunately, we have done historically, of getting the need to know information into the minds of the people doing the work, right? Yeah. It's how do we do the job? How do we do it safely? yes, later down the line we can become Tony Nicolaisen and be an engineer and understand things like. But and like it's so important that we have people like Tony who understand that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But you need to know that at where you are. Yeah, and the guy on the tools doesn't necessarily need to. I mean, it's great if they do it, and it's brilliant if you take an interest. We have to encourage that interest because we want them to go through the process.
It's also how much you're putting in. Is it for me? It's becoming a hobby. I like it. It's a passion about it. We all know that as a scaffolders, we like that. If we go on vacation, see a scaffold, we all like, oh, and then to see that, and my wife goes, "Fuck off," Yeah, exactly. But,
No,
but again, if we then step back and see on the scaffolders, so in some countries they're not even recognized. In modern countries, like say, was it in Canada, USA, or something? They're not even recognized as a trade.
No, they're not recognised. No.
Then you go over to Germany. It's a 3-year education. Denmark, a 2-year education. You got scissors in the UK, and then you go. I don't know other countries.
Ireland.
I'm just guessing now. Yeah, but now I'm just guessing. You go to Poland or Romania, whatever. It's a 5-day course.
Yeah.
And then you go other ways where you can figure up some kind of a course to build a scaffold or what.
Well, here, if you look at the Lithuania, how it was before BSA was set up. So BSA wanted to address this issue. It was like scaffolder in the legislation, in the regulations. There wasn't even like a word for it. They were just like general builder, and the general builder builds access equipment to help him access what he's building. There was no even name for it. And so you have, like you say, the stuff that we have in some of the bigger European countries, where it's really, really comprehensive, and then the other end of the scale where it's like, what is it? We don't even have a word for the scaffolder.
No. But again, then you see across the country, you see UK, yeah.
Yeah.
You're still teaching tube fitting.
Yeah.
You don't find that in Denmark, in Germany, in Norway. Also, we're teaching system, and as we go and as we speak, our manufacturer, like Layher or whatever it is, they're making such good job to kind of getting forward, getting ahead, how to break new solutions, and we can do bigger spans and bigger roofs and whatever. But does the training program also follow that? Can we see them develop also new training programs and getting along with that? Because what I see in training program in modern countries, what we have, if it's UK, if it's Denmark, we're not following up on that training. We're not getting better in it.
Yeah, like the term is, if it ain't broke, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
But the times move. We end up. Technology moves at a rate of knots, doesn't it? You can get an iPhone. You can buy an iPhone today, and there's a new one in 6 months. Yeah, exactly. but it's that. And over a period of, I don't know, 40, 50 years, there's new products on the market, there's new things, but the training hasn't really moved away and been better. When I learned to, through CITB, we used to do a piece on engineering about load, live load, dead load, environmental load, and how to read a drawing. It was instantly taken out of our YTS course because nobody said that it's not a scaffolder's job.
However, to like you as a scaffolder, I feel like again we don't do a great job. I know we used to of explaining what the scaffold is for. Like a scaffold for a renderer, you need a good space between the scaffold and the wall. If a scaffold's for a bricklayer, little space, but still a space, not skin tight. Other operations, maybe asbestos removal or something like that. Again, you might need a little bit of space. You might need to sheet the scaffold in a different way. And I think we just say, well, we have these types of scaffolds. We have an independent, a bird cage, a tower, a freestanding, this, that, and the other, and they're the structures. And like, okay, brilliant, but why? Why would you build a tower? What would you be trying to access? Can we mimic that in a training environment? Can we build a scaffold with 2 inside boards off the wall and then modify it so there's just one, put an inside handrail in?
But also looking at the construction what we are building today. As look at the houses, the task, what we have, the solution we need to find. As we built temporary roofs that had 40-meter span. That is normal for us today to build that. And we're working with forces, that can potentially do big harm or whatever. We saw that last time when there was a storm. That is just so we get engineers involved in it. We get drawings, but the scaffolder needs to understand what's on that drawing. And I think that time has moved too fast. So we kind of handing over a drawing right now. But do we also explain the scaffolder what is on that drawing? And that is just what I see. It's kind of I have covered my ass kind of thing. I've done the drawing. I've done the calculations. Now they are ready to build. But do they also understand what they are building?
I'll give you a good real world example that I see a lot. Right, is that like a beam, a prefabricated beam, and the bracing inside the beam, and it's like the beam is like 450 or whatever, 600, whatever, but deep, right? And depending on the operation that beam is being used for, is it a truss out? Is it cantilevered or is it to span a bridge? The plan bracing is going to be different. It's going to be in the top third if it's if it's a bridge, and it's going to be in the bottom third if it's a if it's a truss out scaffold. The scaffolder reading that drawing just sees a diagonal brace, and if they really really look at it, they can say, oh, it's in the top third, it's bottom third. But why? Why is it in the top third? Why is it in the bottom third?
And it's that educational
What
piece.
happens if we don't put it in the bottom third? Because
But for me, we've spoke about this quite a lot. Is through training, we end up like doing shores. Let's say, just maybe it's a pet of mine of late, but
I've heard you say it.
But let's just look at a shore, right? Nobody's building shores, so we want to be educating transferable skills. Now, if we were educating on how to read a drawing and understand, like I say, the leg load, the live load, the environmental load, etc., that's a transferable skill that he'll take through his career, and he can only build on that. But learning and educating something that's not going to be used, only in that one element of his life, is what was the gain? What was the purpose? Because you would want to be learning something that you're going to take with you.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because like you have yes, transferable skills. Ultimately, that's the gold standard. We want to teach transferable skills that you can use in any type of build sequence. And I do get it. Like there's this thing where people go, oh, we have to make it as realistic as possible in the training center. And I'm like, do we? Like, you're spending so little of your time in that training center. Like, it's 2 weeks out of your entire, or 4 weeks or whatever out of your entire career. How realistic? I think as long as you build the structure, you build it safely, you build it, safe systems work. Things like the height of it, I don't think is a massive thing that we need.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
No, it's not. The height isn't the thing. It's the content.
Yeah.
It's the content what you teach is the issue.
And the skill is measuring, leveling, plumbing, handling the materials. And all
but
that.
it's also getting out there and
most of the
speak with your scaffolders about it. See if they have any questions. And that's a perfect example with the beams. Many think we're gonna put a beam out, we're gonna go in, dive into the book. We're gonna put from that the table, see what can it take. Oh, it can take 14 kilonewtons somehow is so and so long out, and that's good. And we're gonna put a standard on, and now it's good. And I'm gonna call Tony. He's gonna come out and he's gonna approve it or sign it off. And then I need to tell him, no, we need to plan brace it. We need to brace it here, brace it there. So you need to read in the book what also what is what they've written with small that you need to put the bracing in everything, because otherwise it will just shear away. And if it can shear away, you can't use these numbers in the book. So that is what we need. We need to tell them, how can you identify the weakest link in the construction? And if you're able to do that, you're so far ahead from everybody else.
And you should be educated that through your training. That's a fundamental part of your training. You shouldn't be learning that from a book later when you're a part 2 or something. You shouldn't having to refer back to what does it say. Mm-hmm. If it's a basic structure, you said, well, I know that I can go this far, I can go to that point, or less.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I need to then take some guidance from the engineer.
I think the big question is, how do we make sure that is happening more often in out of the training centre? Because I get it with the training, but it's easy to just go, oh, it's training. We need the training centre to do this. We need the training scheme to do that, and it needs to be more focused on this, that, and
in Denmark, we have put on the mentor role of it. So we point out a mentor for that apprenticeship, and that mentor is gonna be kind of pointed out from the company. He's a bright guy. He knows what he's talking about. He's taking care of that apprenticeship, and he's kind of explaining him what to do and how and where. And he's also supporting him on school with his exam or whatever he needs to pass, or his book reading or stuff like that. So that is kind of doing that shit that further out,
Yeah, no, the workplace stuff. Do you know what I mean? That's where learning really.
They need to step up
in the training centre. My personal view is we spend way too much time in the classroom. Like that lesson should be, and it's almost like, okay, so we do a PowerPoint presentation. this is this is that, this is the other, this is, you know, how the structure is going to go together, blah, 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 blah. At which point most kids are just like,
Yeah.
you know, falling asleep. And then it's like, we get them out on the training floor. It's like, right, here's the drawing, do the job. And it's like, what? You're the instructor. I should be. And I do this at like, some instructors, you will see them, they sat on a chair and they just go, there's a drawing, crack on. And when I'm teaching a training, I'm sweating.
Yeah.
I'm up and down and like, this goes here, pull this, move that. You have to get hands on and like, and show them. And I just think we need to be doing more of that than unless.
We're a practical trade.
Mm.
Yeah. There's an element that is theory, you know, whether that's risk and methods or reading the drawings or whatever else. But fundamentally, we are a practical skill, and that's not going to change. So educate ourselves on the practical side more than the theory side. You know, I was talking to engineers before Christmas, I think it was, and they were saying, yeah, but you can't mix materials and you can't do this. I said, you can mix whatever you want. You can mix whatever you want from an engineer's perspective. You can, if he's got
It's
his calculations and his technical data, he can do what he wants with that material, providing it's got the data. So you can choose how that's going to work, but saying that you can't do it and then educating that you can't do it is the wrong way around. So there's no joined up thinking in that.
And this is the big
And
picture.
this is the problem.
But for GSA though, this is like
it's just, and you know, who's right, who's wrong. Well, if you just sat back and actually started viewing the issue,
Put some common sense into it.
put the common sense back in and go, hey, do you know what? We're more aligned if we get in the same room than we think we've disconnected. We're actually so close, but we just think our skill's better than your skill, and
It's like keeping it,
and you've got to let go.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to just open it up and go. Actually,
we all know it's a money question. It's a money question.
Every day it is what it is, and we say it all the time every day. But it
yeah.
is what it is. You can't keep hold of it. You've got.
There's always this industry. There's always someone wants to be in control. You know, wherever that looks. And
his name is Mark Parkin, man.
every day, yeah, every day. But the point is, it's nobody's.
Yeah, we're custodians of this industry.
So that's why we come up with the gSA. That's why I talk about together as one. It's a global community, and here, Scaffchamp is that global community right out there.
Yeah.
You speak to everybody.
And then referring back to the big picture. Labor shortage, what they're all speaking about, it's all over the LinkedIn, whatever we have, you know. And if you join up with them and recognizes different certification, different standards, different education, it's also easier to get workforce people in, labor in, or whatever.
The trade is scaffolding, right? Globally. Outside of that, we have laws and legislations in England that are different to Denmark, that are different to Canada, right? They're just modules sat there. They're just a small piece. But the actual fundamentals of the training of scaffolder can be transferred globally if there was joined up thinking. And this is where they've got to get to.
Yeah, recognizes the different phrases. Yeah, exactly.
With the right people in the room, they can make this happen and have a global educational system. But if I wanted to work in France, I might have to go and do a module in, you know, French legislation about working at height and what their rules and regulations are. But if I was to be able to sit that, why can't I take my skill as a scaffolder?
You can do it with a car. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
You can use your driver's license.
Exactly. And all the difference is...
And I'd say that's a more dangerous
task.
Right.
Yeah. You go left to right and the signs look like this. Okay, well, educate me on that and I'll go to Europe.
It's a journey, and it's the start of the journey, and it's hopefully
still a long way to go. We need to have the right people. There's still some that are kind of pushing away, some are embracing us, some so this is a hard way. But it's just getting it out there, get our what do you call it, our statement out there, and our mission about this, and people will embrace it. We're not here to enforce anything or want to have more money in the box or anything else. We just want to join that up. It's about the scaffolders here.
The scaffolders are the backbone of the industry. You know, the companies are one thing, but it's the operatives within that company that are delivering the tasks. So if we can get that right, well, surely that's it for industry, not for any one organisation, not for any one company. It's a global community.
And more so every day. It's been absolutely brilliant having you in again. It's always a pleasure, and I don't think there's anywhere else I like doing these podcasts more than at Scaffchamp. So looking forward to tomorrow, to the event, and hopefully seeing you guys again at Scaffchamp 2026, powered by Layher.
You're
No
better.
problem. Thank you very much.
I truly hope you enjoy this episode. If you do, all I ask is that you like, subscribe, and get notified every time we drop a new episode.